Hey, Tree Sprites. Let's talk about a very interesting and highly spiritual aspect of Black American culture that we practice all the time, but typically deny for the sake of our Christian indoctrination. If we're being really real, we, Solani Black American people, absolutely believe in reincarnation and the recycling of souls in bloodlines. That baby been here before. A very common phrase that you will hear amongst Black Americans anytime that we encounter young children that seem to have this otherworldly, etheric sense of knowledge, knowing, perception of reality, or wisdom and maturity for their age. Other phrases that you will commonly hear us say are, "Whose uncle is that? Whose grandma is that?" And because of our indoctrination into Abrahamic religions, we have been forced to sort of choose between reincarnation and resurrection. Christianity often teaches that when you pass away, your soul stays with your body, and then one day there will be this great resurrection in which all the souls will be judged in a final day of judgment, which conflicts with the idea of reincarnation, where your soul continues to come back to this plane of reality and live new lives repeatedly. And obviously, this innate sense of spirituality comes from our ancestors that were trafficked to the Americas. Many of us are now aware of the events of the Igbo landing, where the Igbo people who were being trafficked on ships destined to enslavement in America chose to mass drown themselves with the knowing that they would be reborn back on their indigenous lands. In fact, European American enslavers used Christianity in order to prevent the people that they were attempting to enslave from taking themselves out of their game. Because you can't have a game without players, and you can't have white supremacy without leveraging it against Black lives. And one of the biggest things that we don't see, that we don't understand, is that our religious indoctrination during chattel slavery caused us to fear death. Of course, everyone has an instinctual desire to survive their lives. However, when you are deeply rooted in spirituality and you have a deep knowing that this is one of my many lives and I will come back here, then your fear of death is dramatically diminished. Death becomes an uncomfortable inconvenience in the chronology of your spirit's existence, indoctrinating us with the fear of death and then also slaughtering us in the most horrible, evil, heinous ways that they could think of, was a pivotal point in dragging us down from the etheric realms that we exist in into the harsh, 3D, solid, physical world. Because you can't control a flying bird. Also, why we were tortured and punished for practicing our indigenous beliefs and culture and languages. Because they understood that even though our bodies were bound, they still had little control over our minds and spirits, and that ruling the mind and the spirit is what actually created a slave. Which is also why, even though chattel slavery was abolished 160 years ago, unless you're incarcerated, we still wrestle with internalized white narcissism within our community. And many of us are waking up to the fact that this is centuries worth of trauma bonding and Stockholm syndrome. And the next step of understanding this is knowing that these responses are rooted in fear. Fear that was indoctrinated into us. Our religious indoctrination was always meant to keep us docile, quiet, and accepting of violence and oppression, of extending our energy and resources to everyone except for ourselves, to continually seek validation outside of ourselves. Another phrase that we commonly use is that they buried us not knowing we were seeds. It's just very much giving reincarnation. Like, no matter how many times you put us in the ground, we're always going to come back. And so, a big aspect of our liberation is understanding that we are spiritual giants, that our fear of our oppressors is just an illusion, a ball and chain keeping us in place, a place that we had to be forced to believe in. The illusion that we have been caught up in for centuries is slowly fading, dissipating into the wind like smoke clearing in the air. In various covert ways, society keeps telling us, you are surrounded by bars, you are restricted, you are caged, you are contained. And the reason why society keeps repeating this to us is because the bars aren't really real. There is no cage. It is simply a product of their imagination. We had to be forced to believe it. They told us that the sky was purple so many times and then tortured us anytime we said the sky is blue that we just started nodding and saying, okay, the sky is purple. But deep inside of us, we know the sky is blue. And we know we'll be back here. And we know that this fear is an illusion, is false, is a lie. Subscribe to Black Barn Owl, link in the bio. I'll see you in Always.